Welcome to today's explainer. Look, we're diving straight into something that completely flips the script on traditional personal finance. We are breaking down a hyper-focused, incredibly ambitious financial goal. We aren't just talking about, putting a few bucks away for a rainy day. No, we're unpacking a highly structured, super aggressive strategy to build some serious capital, and fast. Okay, let's dive right into this. How I saved $10,000 in 6 months in the USA. That is the exact source tracks we're analyzing today, and honestly, it's a monumental claim. It instantly hooks you, doesn't it? It's not some vague how I saved a little extra cash. It's a massive, highly specific amount, compressed into a really tight timeline, all anchored in the US economy. This isn't just a statement, it's a total provocation. It challenges literally everything we usually accept about that slow, agonizing crawl of a traditional savings account. $10,000. Let that just sink in for a second. For most of us, hitting 5 figures is a massive psychological barrier. It's intimidating. When you hear 10 grand, it honestly sounds less like a Tuesday afternoon goal and more like winning the lottery, right? It feels heavy. It feels, frankly, completely out of reach for a standard half-year stretch. And that is exactly why we need to break this down. So let's get into part 1, the $10,000 goal and how we actually confront this massive figure. We have to acknowledge why a number like that totally paralyzes most savers. When a goal is just too big, our brains kind of reject it as impossible. And boom, immediate inaction. But our source material doesn't just throw the number at us, it gives us a framework to actually conquer it. Compressing this massive goal into a tight window transforms saving from a passive habit into an active sprint. Think about it. When you give yourself years to save 10 grand, you give yourself permission for cheat days, off months, and that sneaky lifestyle creep. But when you squeeze it into just 6 months, you completely lose the luxury of passivity. The author explicitly points out how the sprint forces you to instantly audit your life. We're talking canceling every single unused subscription and relentlessly meal prepping instead of just ordering takeout. You are in an intense sprint where every single daily financial decision is magnified. Now, what's really interesting is part 2, deconstructing the 6 months. Let's look at the mathematical blueprint. Let's actually run the numbers here and see how mathematically slicing this goal makes it instantly digestible. Our total target is that imposing $10,000. But divide that by 6, and suddenly you need roughly $1,666 per month. Break that down even further into weeks, and you're looking at about $384 a week. Zoom in all the way to the daily level, and the math reveals we're targeting just about $54 a day. Do you see what just happened? By rapidly cascading down this timeline, we literally took a giant, terrifying boulder of a goal and shattered it into handfuls of totally manageable pebbles. $54. Breaking the source claim down to this specific daily metric completely shifts your perspective from impossible to actionable. Look, you might not know how to magically pull 10 grand out of thin air, but you can for sure figure out how to generate or save $54 in a single 24-hour period. It changes the whole mindset from how do I get rich to how do I optimize today for $54. And the source reveals this isn't just about skipping your morning coffee. It's about tactical shifts, picking up 2 hours of freelance gig work in the evenings, selling unused stuff lying around the apartment, or aggressively negotiating a utility bill. That is the secret power of this mathematical breakdown. Moving right along to part 3, the American blueprint context and what rapid savings looks like in the USA. To really grasp this, we need to talk about what we actually mean by a blueprint. Literally, a blueprint is a design plan or technical drawing. It's a rigorous guide for making something a reality. We're highlighting this definition because saving at this velocity is absolutely never an accident, especially given the author's specified location. In a high-velocity environment like the US economy, consumerism is constantly pulling at your wallet, right? Yet, at the exact same time, the opportunity to generate an extra $54 a day is structurally abundant. You don't just stumble your way into $10,000 of savings in 6 months in that kind of economy. It requires deliberate, structural design. You literally have to be the architect of your own financial behavior. And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast between traditional advice and the intense focus required by this blueprint. Look at standard savings. It's passive, it's slow accumulation over several years. It's that classic set it and forget it vibe. Versus rapid savings, which is active, intense compression into a 6-month window. It demands your attention every single day. You basically have to treat your personal finances with the exact same rigorous tracking as a high-growth startup. Which brings us to part 4, designing your rapid savings. Let's execute this timeline. Let's map this out and see how this actually builds across the temporal checkpoints of this demanding journey. Month 1 is all about setting the baseline. This is where you initiate a real shock to your system, setting up your daily life to hit that $54 metric. According to the source, this first month is pretty brutal. It involves ruthlessly cutting non-essentials and locking in those new side hustle routines. Then, by month 3, you hit the halfway sprint. This is a massive psychological barrier. Because if you've been hitting your daily targets, you're sitting on $5,000. That proves the math actually works, which completely fuels your motivation. Finally, month 6 is about hitting $10,000, just maintaining that rigorous stamina right across the finish line. So the really crucial point here is captured in these 3 core mechanics derived straight from the author's claim. Step 1, fixate on the $10,000 target. You absolutely need that macro goal to pull you forward. Step 2, compress the timeline to 6 months. This creates that essential urgency so you don't just drift back into passive habits. And step 3, master the $54 daily math. This is the micro execution, because if you win the day, you win the week, you win the month, and ultimately you completely conquer the 6-month blueprint. We've taken this single monumental claim of saving $10,000 in 6 months and reverse engineered the exact math and psychology required to make it a reality. The structure is laid bare for us. The $54 daily target is clearly defined. The blueprint is drawn. So the only question left to ask yourself is, are you ready to build?